you'll be able to stand so much stronger, knowing that when God raises you up, people are going to try to tear you down. You are going to be able to stand so much stronger, knowing that kneeling to pray gives you that extra strength to stand. And you are going to be able to stand stronger if we do what's right and trust God with the results. All right, we are in our final week of a series we're calling Stand. The title for this week, if you want to write it down, is Stand Strong. Stand strong. Week 1, we talked about standing out and how to stand out in the right way for the right thing at the right time. Last week, we talked about standing up, being able to stand up for what is right, being able to stand up to people that if we say this, it might hurt in a moment, but in time, they will be thankful that we said it. Confrontation, stuff like that. Some people call it confrontation. I call it conversation. That's what people have told me. Especially after last week in our small groups and how many of you came up to me and said, hey, for that question that we had about did anybody ever confront you about something and how did that go? It was like, you remember that time, Cody, when you said this to me? And you remember that time, Cody, when you said this to me? Like, I don't remember most of them. Some of them I do. But we're talking about stand strong this week. Stand strong. And we're going to be talking about Daniel in the lion's den. And this is if you grew up in church, in Sunday school, or anything like that, this is a very popular Sunday school story. And we tend to think of this story as, Daniel, this good-looking young man in this pit with, cute, cuddly lions, and he's just spending the night in this hotel. But that is not even close to what this probably looked like. We like to put that in there. But what's really happening, and what I want you to picture, is Daniel, at the time that this story happened, is probably around 80 years old. So he's an older man at the time of this story, and he's in a pit with lions. And lions are not cute and cuddly. Lions are awesome. Lions are not anything like cats, where we talked about that last week as well. So go look at that as well. Lions are awesome. Cats are the total opposite of lions. So cats are terrible. When it was awesome. It was the best point he had this morning. One time, speaking of hunting, Wesley, I don't do it much, but when I go to Tennessee, my family lives out in the woods, and like when I mean out in the woods, like they live out there. I don't think my uncle still owns a cell phone. My aunt watches these online, so maybe she can correct me. But they have this awesome house on this mountain surrounded by woods. And one night we were going out and they set traps and all of this stuff that I don't know much about, so I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm just going along. It's the middle of the night, can't see anything. And so the first night we set the traps. The next night we go out and check them to see if any sort of animal has gotten in there. And so the second night we're out there and we're walking in the middle of the night, can't see anything. All we got is our flashlight. And we get to this trap and it is shaking and it is going and it's this horrible, horrible noise inside this trap. And you shine the light out and all you can see is the eyeballs looking back at you. And we get a little closer and this thing is hissing and it is nasty. And we found out that we had trapped a wildcat. And this thing was huge. I mean, relative, whatever a wildcat is. But it was nasty. Like, cats are no. Don't. Yes. No, it doesn't lead to anything other than cats are gross, and except lions are cool. And we're talking about lions tonight, so there's your segue. We're talking about, the whole point of this is, how do we stand strong in the midst of opposition? How do we stand strong in the midst of opposition? And we're going to be in Daniel chapter 6 today, so you can turn there in your Bibles, the Bible app. I believe there's notes on YouVersion, or it'll be on the screen. And we're picking up this story. Again, Daniel is about 80 years old, and he's serving under a new king. We talked about King Nebuchadnezzar. He's under a new king, King Darius. This is the third king that he served under. And King Darius was this administrative genius. Like he was so smart. He was able to put systems in order and run the system and get things going. And so what he did is he put 120 satraps, however you want to say it, in government. They were basically governors over a certain area, and their job was to protect the kingdom. And over those 120, he put 3 administrators, and Daniel was one of those 3 that he put over top of these 120, which was over top of the entire kingdom. And their job was to prevent rebellion, to collect taxes, to make sure everything was in order, to make sure people paid their debts, to make sure they didn't run out of money, to make sure nobody tried to leave the kingdom. And so in this story, Daniel 6:1, it says this: "It pleased Darius to appoint 120 satraps to rule throughout the kingdom, with 3 administrators over them, one of whom was Daniel. The satraps were made accountable to them so that the king might not suffer loss. Now Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators that the satraps, by his exceptional qualities, that the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom." So we have all the people, we have 120, we have 3, and then we have Daniel, who is one of 3 that the king wants to put over everybody. So he's the man of the man. And so the other 2 obviously got a little jealous of this, and they wanted to get rid of Daniel. They wanted to find a way that they could be the top dog, not Daniel, who wasn't, remember week 1, he wasn't even part of these people. He was brought in to this place as a slave to do whatever the people wanted them to do. So they were jealous. They wanted to take Daniel down. But we're going to find out that Daniel stands his ground. He stands strong for what he believes, and he does what's right. And so we're going to talk about 3 truths today. Talking about trust, understanding trust, 3 truths to help you stand strong. The first one is, when God raises you up, expect people to tear you down. 3 truths to help you stand strong. When God raises you up, expect people to tear you down. Let's say you're coming into faith for the first time. You're super excited. Maybe it's at a Momentum or a big event or a night at Elevate, and you're super excited about being a new Christian and reading your Bible every day, and you're this new walk with Jesus. There are going to be people, expect people to say, "Well, why are you doing that? Well, what's the point in that? Why are you wasting your time doing that?" Or maybe you get a promotion at work, and other people are going to be like, "Well, why did she get that promotion? Why did he get that promotion?" Or this is maybe a popular one. You get the best grade in a class that has a curved grade, and you're a curve breaker, or whatever you guys call it. What do they call it? Overachiever, a try hard, right? In Australia, they have a term. They call you a tall poppy. Have you ever heard that before? A tall poppy? It basically means when you get a certain status, when you come to becoming famous or whatever, people are going to try to cut you down. And a poppy is a flower, and they would cut the top ones off, and they're going to bring you down. Some of you have heard me say about the crabs. You don't have to put a lid on a bucket of crabs and fear that they're going to run out of the bucket, because when one crab tries to reach the top, all the other crabs at the bottom of the bucket are going to pull them down. And so you don't have to worry about putting a lid on it or anything. They're just going to keep themselves in the bucket. So when you are promoted, when you are blessed, when God uses you, expect people to try to tear you down. And if we can come into this place where we expect it and we're not surprised by it, it's going to help us stand that much stronger when that opposition actually does come. And so when God raises you up, expect people to tear you down. Daniel 6:4 says this: "At this, the administrators and the satraps tried to find grounds for charges against Daniel and his conduct of government affairs, but they were unable to do so. They could find no corruption in him because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent." Aren't you glad that we don't have people trying to find dirt on other people when they go into... Oh, wait. "Finally, these men said, 'We will never find any basis for charges against this man Daniel unless it has something to do with the law of his God.'" A lot of times, people will think, if I give my life to Christ, if I get baptized, if I start doing this, if I start going to church, if I start reading my Bible, if I have a relationship with God, nothing in my life should go wrong. Everything should be rainbows and unicorns. Riley's asking we've been talking about, what she wants to do for her birthday coming up in a little bit, just trying to get some ideas. And she said, all I want is a unicorn and a rainbow maker. And so if you know where to find those things, and it's on Amazon Prime, please let me know. But that's not true, because we're going to get in situations where, man, I give my life to Christ, man, I'm reading my Bible, man, I'm doing all of this stuff for God, and why am I still going through this hard stuff? Why am I still going through this situation where I just can't get out of my head? Why do I feel like I'm getting, just bombarded by, I don't even know how to explain it? Expect the opposition to come, and when that opposition comes, take it as a compliment, because that means you're moving in the right direction. That means you're moving towards God. That means you're moving towards heaven. That means you're moving the way that you're supposed to be going, because the devil isn't going to mess with you if you're going the same direction as him. The devil isn't going to waste his time working on somebody or trying to defeat somebody that is already on his side. If you are not being attacked, that means you're going the same way as God. Somebody said it might have been my dad. I don't know, but if you're on the fence, you're against him or something. Everybody said it, I guess. If you're on the fence of, do I follow God, do I not follow God, you've already made your decision. And let me say this with the most sincere heart I have. If you are not ready to face opposition for your obedience to God, then you are not ready to be used by God. If you are not ready to face opposition for your obedience to God, then you are not ready to be used by God. And Daniel comes to this place, and we're about to find out what's going to happen to him. Many of you have known this story, but we have to decide now that no matter what happens, I'm going to do the right thing. No matter what happens, I'm going to follow God. No matter what happens, I'm deciding now that my trust is in the Lord, good or bad. It's part of the reason that I got this tattoo on my arm. So it's my reminder that no matter what, I am going to be with God, no matter what. And the tattoo comes from this, Jeremiah 17. "But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends its roots out by the stream. It does not fear when the heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It does not worry in the year of drought, and it never fails to bear fruit." If we are so close to God, and if we trust in him no matter what happens, we will always bear fruit, even in the tough times, and we will have enough to help people that aren't. And Daniel is doing this. No matter what happens to me, God, I'm going to trust you. No matter what happens, God, I'm going to trust you. No matter what happens, God, I'm going to trust you. The two other administrators, they come, and they're like, we can't find anything on this guy. The only thing that we're going to be able to do is try to twist words and make things up and get him to do something against his God. So we got to butter up this king. So they come to King Darius. I don't know what they said. Like, hey, King D, you been working out? Like your robe's looking a little tight there. You're looking good. Are those the new Yeezy sandals you got there? And so they come to him and they butter him up and they get his head all big. And it's easy to do when you're a king and you're, and they say, we have to issue a law because King D, you are so cool. Like we need to put this law out there that nobody's allowed to pray to anybody except for you for the next 30 days. And the king, of course, is like, well, yeah, that sounds great. Like, let's do that right now and make that happen. And so they write it all up and they send it out and they make it happen. And so we find Daniel in this situation where he needs to decide what he's going to do. Perhaps there's more than this, but three things that Daniel can do is he can stop praying. He can say, God, I'm 80 years old. I've prayed to you every single day. What's 1 month? We can take a break, right? Or maybe this might be one that I would do, or maybe some of you would do. We can pray silently, like, what are you doing? I'm just thinking. I'm not praying. I'm just thinking. Or Daniel can keep praying and risk death, because anybody that is caught praying to anybody other than King Darius is going to be thrown into a pit of lions. And so how does Daniel have this audacious faith to continue to do what he's always been doing, even though he knows if he gets caught doing it, he's going to be most likely killed? The second thing I have for you in how we can stand strong is kneeling to pray is what gives us the strength to stand. Kneeling is what gives us the strength to stand. When we get on our knees, it says this, Daniel 6:10, it says, now when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows were open towards Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to his God, just as he had done before. What does he do? Nothing different. He didn't change anything. Just a quick side note. If a law like this would be written today, would anything change for us? Would we be worried about being put to death? I don't know. Our first response to a problem, our first response to a situation cannot be panic. Oh no, this new law is out there. What am I supposed to do? I've been praying all my life. I've been praying 3 times a day for 80 years and now all of a sudden this is happening. What am I supposed to do? Like, just calm down, just chill out, relax. I think too often problems get escalated because we tend to make them bigger than what they actually are. If you would just, take a deep breath, just assess the situation and just look, oh, I thought this problem was this big, but it's only like this big and I can deal with that. Like, just relax and calm down and be even. But what do we tend to do? Oh, I got to do this. I got to try this. Please help me do this. I got to figure this out. I got to do this. I got to do this. And then we find out what prayer actually means to us in our own language because we say things like, oh, I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and I did that. And all we can do now is pray. Hello? We start with prayer. And that big problem that is in your head is actually only this big if you were to just come to God first and then deal with the things that come after it. It's not something, oh, all we can do is pray. Like, bless his heart. Like, don't say that to me. And Daniel goes back to his house. He hears the law. He goes back to his house and he does what he's always been doing. He doesn't announce it. He doesn't say, oh, look at me. I'm going to pray now. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag I'm so special. Hashtag spiritual over here. He just goes up to his house the way he always done, kneels down, and prays 3 times a day. Side note on that, some people think, oh, well, if I pray 3 times a day, then it's a schedule thing, and then I'm just checking off a block. No, you're only checking off a block if you make it checking off a block. Make a schedule to pray. Put it in your calendar. Oh, I better pray right now. Oh, I better pray right now. 15 minutes, I better be on my knees. I better be praying. something about kneeling it changes not just your physical posture, but it changes you emotionally, it changes you mentally. Remember a couple weeks ago, Kelly, I hope I don't embarrass you, but she shared a story where, this devastating thing happened to her house, and she said for the first time she got down on her knees and just, she felt completely different. Kneeling is what gives you the strength to stand. Kneeling to pray is what gives you the strength to stand. And maybe, hopefully, this series has caused you to think a little bit about what you're going to stand for and what priorities you're going to make. And just some things that I've seen over the years, some stories that I've heard is students and other people have made priorities in their life to change soccer leagues, to change sports leagues because they were missing too much church, or they made provisions to drive to the game, leave at halftime, and come. Bobby LeCates was one of the first ones that I've ever seen this happen before. Is he would have games over in Gettysburg, and he would only play for about 10 minutes, and then he'd leave early so he could come back to Elevate. Like, to me, that is huge. And I know a lot of others of you have done that before. But are you willing to sacrifice game time? Are you willing to do that? To stand for the right thing? Maybe it's when you're a little bit older or you're in business and you don't do a certain deal because you know it's going to cause this issue and it's going to cause that issue and it's going to be something that is going to be manipulative and you're not going to get in business with a certain group of people or a certain thing. Or maybe you're going to break up with somebody because they're pushing you to do things that you don't want to do. And then these thoughts come into my head. Well, how am I supposed to be a professional basketball player if I'm not going to my games? And what if I don't ever meet anybody ever again? And I can't break up with that person because I just don't know if I'll ever find anybody ever again. I think I found the one. But he wants me to do this. But I don't want to do this. But he's the one and I love him. Think about what Daniel's saying here. Daniel says, what if the lions eat me? What if I keep praying and they do throw me into this pit and the lions eat me? There's no guarantee that doing the right thing means that nothing bad is going to happen. There's no guarantee in that. The only thing that we can promise is number 3. When you do what's right, you can always trust God with the results. When you do what's right, you can always trust God with the results. Quick story. We'll see if this ties in. Hopefully it does. But I played basketball a lot when I was younger. At some point, I realized that I wasn't going to make it to the NBA, but one can hope for a little while. But I played a lot of basketball, and my dad was the coach for a lot of those years. And one game, I remember we played the first half, we were doing great, and then, there's halftime, and you talk with the team, and then second half, you go out, and at halftime, those of you that play basketball, you know this, you switch sides, you switch what basket you're going to score at. And so we go out there, the other team was starting with the ball, and everybody is on this side of the court. And the other team is inbounding the ball, and I'm the only person on this side of the court. And in that moment, I look like a big doofus because my dad is yelling at me, my coach is yelling at me, and people in the stands are like, what are you doing? You're the tallest guy on the team, you need to get over there and play defense, and I'm over here all by myself, and I'm thinking, am I doing the right thing or am I not doing the right thing? Because what was happening is the other team forgot that we switched sides, and they were shooting at our goal, and I was the only one who was right in that moment, and the dudes were playing, and I was like, well, if they're going to shoot at our goal, I'm not going to play defense. I'm going to let them score in our goal, and they scored in our goal. And my point is, in the moment, I look like a big doofus because I'm all alone. Everybody thinks I'm wrong, doing the wrong thing, but what's actually happening is I'm right. And so after they scored into our goal, which means our team gets the points, it doesn't matter, right, guys? It doesn't matter who puts the ball in the hoop. If it's in our hoop, my team gets the points. At the end of that, I looked like the smartest guy in the whole building because I was the only one who knew that they were shooting in the wrong spot. And that guy looked like a big doofus afterwards. I was happy because we got 2 points. But we don't know how, if we can't deal with people thinking, oh, well, he's weird. He's just being a Bible thumper. I'm holy roller. He's just doing his thing. He's weird. Like Daniel was all alone. Daniel was doing his thing all alone. Everybody tried to get him to do the wrong thing. He kept doing the right thing. And what we find out is the plot twists. It flips. 80 years old, God has been faithful to Daniel. Daniel understood that. Daniel says, God, I got to keep praying to you. God, I've done it all my life, and God, you've been so faithful to me. I know you're going to do it again. And that's why I said, I believe Daniel was singing this song when he was in the den. He says, God, if you save me, I'm going to trust you. God, if you don't save me, I'm still going to trust you. King Darius, he finds out what happens because, of course, the guys are following Daniel. They're saying, oh, he's going to pray. He always prays at this time, and we're going to catch him in the act. And so they catch Daniel. They tell King Darius. King Darius likes Daniel. He wants Daniel, remember, to run the entire kingdom. But because of this law, he's bound by his word, and he has to put Daniel in this den. And so what happens here is Daniel continued to do what he believed was right, even though people thought it was crazy. King Darius, who didn't believe in this God, was so devastated in this moment, but he watched Daniel for so long. He had a relationship with Daniel for so long that he could not sleep or eat that entire night. He prayed and he fasted, and he didn't even know who he was praying to yet. And by his example, by Daniel's example, he was able to change the way things happen. So they throw Daniel into this den. They cover it up so that nobody can get out. King D can't eat. He can't sleep. He wakes up first thing in the morning. He runs to the den. He says, move that rock. Daniel, are you down there? He says it this way. Daniel, did the God that you worship rescue you? And Daniel replies, my God sent his angel. He shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me because I was found innocent in his sight, nor have I ever done anything wrong before you, your majesty. The king was overjoyed and gave orders to lift Daniel out of the den. And when Daniel was lifted from the den, no wounds was found on him because he had trusted in his God. By Daniel's example of going through what he went through, he was able to change the heart of the king. And when the king came, he brought Daniel out, and the king said, where are the guys that put all this together? Because the king finally figured out what happened, and he knew he was tricked. And so what happened was those two guys got thrown into the den, and the angel that God sent for Daniel, I guess, was a little tired from keeping lions quiet for the whole night, and they were gone. The king called the guys, throws them in, and they're gone. The story flipped. Daniel was the person that was able to just continue to do what he knew what was right. He didn't have to put signs up. He didn't have to do anything like that. Joe, can I tell that story that you told me? This past weekend, Joe went to a march thing, and we know he's in the military, and every month or so they go to drill. And he was with these guys, and they were having a conversation that he didn't want to be a part of. And so he's sitting in his bunk, and he's reading his Bible, and one of the guys leans over and says, "What are you doing?" And Joe just answers, he said, "I'm reading my Bible." And the guy says, I used to be a Christian, but I just had too many questions. And Joe says, I have a lot of questions too. And that was it. And the next day that guy comes and he says, what did you mean by that? Which means that guy was thinking about that conversation, even though it was this big. And even though Joe was just reading his Bible, he wasn't making a big, obnoxious thing. He thought about it. And the next day, another guy comes. He says, I'm a Christian too. And he shows him this bracelet and whatever it says, and it represents Christ to him. We don't have to be obnoxious with what we do. We just have to keep doing what we're doing. In the tough times when, there's this and there's this and there's this, and I want to be part of all of this, but I'm trusting God for more. I'm trusting God for better. I'm trusting God is going to take care of me. I might miss out on this. I might miss out on that, but I'm trusting God is going to have me. You'll be able to stand so much stronger, knowing that when God raises you up, people are going to try to tear you down. You are going to be able to stand so much stronger, knowing that kneeling to pray gives you that extra strength to stand. And you are going to be able to stand stronger if we do what's right and trust God with the results. God, we thank you for Daniel. We thank you for this series, and we thank you for his example. God, thanks that we don't have to be obnoxious and do crazy things to try to make you famous. God, we're just going to trust you, and however high you raise us up, whatever situations you put us in, whoever's trying to tear us down, God, we're going to trust you with it all. But God, we ask for protection. We ask for strength. We ask for wisdom when we get into those situations where we're a little bit unsure and where we might question what might happen. God, cover us with strength. Cover us with wisdom and boldness and power to do what's right. Lord, we thank and we love you for what you're doing. We ask that you continue to bless us. We ask that you be in the conversations tonight to bring us closer to each other, but closer to you even more. We thank you and love you. In Jesus' name, amen.